There's a house in a terraced street in Ponders End, North London, where the events of the past 2 months have baffled all who've heard about them and scared the life out of those who've been directly involved. This is the home of Mrs. Peggy Hodgson and her family. At the moment, the children are being looked after by relatives because Mrs. Hodgson is ill in bed. The sequence of bizarre happenings which unfolded round these children and their mother in September have made the walls of the house rattle with the impact of flying objects and the sound of mysterious knockings. Soon a second family was drawn into the action, the next-door neighbours, Peggy and Vic Nottingham.
We'd been sitting listening to the knocking, and the woman next door, she called me in. We couldn't make out what it was. I heard the knocking as I walked in the front door, but I went all over the house, checked it, checked the walls, checked everything. Just couldn't make out what it was. So in the end, I thought to myself, well, there's only one thing. I'll call the police.
One of the 2 police officers sent to investigate made the following remarkable statement about what they heard and saw in this living room. There were 4 distinct taps on the wall, and then silence. About 2 minutes later, I heard more tapping from a different wall. The other police constable checked the walls, attic, and pipes, but could find nothing to explain the knocking. The eldest son of the family pointed to a chair next to the sofa. I then saw the chair slide across the floor. It moved approximately 3 to 4 feet and then came to rest. I checked the chair, but could find nothing to explain how it had moved.
The police definitely wanted to get out of the house.
How could you tell?
They was as frightened as I was. And then the second night we went back in there again, and we got the same reactions again. We got this knocking. And then this here Lego. I witnessed a box of Lego underneath a chair, but I walked into the room. As I walked into the room, the Lego began to fly. But where it was coming from, I don't know. One piece hit me on the arm. And
Did it hurt?
Oh, it brought a lump up. It caught me on the elbow, and it brought a lump up. And as I
one
say,
tiny little piece?
One tiny little piece of Lego. Now, it's not much bigger than a 3/4 inch. But it caught me on the elbow. And as I say, it brought a lump up.
In the absence of a law against chairs that move on their own, the police were powerless to act. So the neighbours called in the man from the Society for Psychical Research. Maurice Gross is an inventor who devotes his leisure to investigating the supernatural. Since coming on the case, he's made several recordings of what he says are unique examples of a poltergeist in action. Tapes can, of course, be faked, but in this one, recorded in a bedroom after the family had gone to bed, the reactions of the Hodgson children to some very strange occurrences seem totally genuine.
All the lights gone out. Oh! Wait! Where's the light out?
It's round the lamp.
On the head.
Right way across the room and pulled it out of the socket.
Quick, turn the lamp off.
The light plug was pulled from the socket 3 times after that. Then, after a period of watching and waiting, something even stranger happened.
Who's that shaking the door? Oh. What's on there? Mum's laughing. Oh! What's that?
The slipper was thrown across the room, hit
Oh,
the door
not my one.
as I was holding the door.
My one.
The white slipper hit the door as I was holding the door.
He hit me on the leg. Where's the other one?
The other one's over here.
What sort of a case is this in your experience?
Well, I think this is probably the best case this century. In fact, as far as documentation is concerned, it may be the best case of all time.
What special aspects make it so?
Well, the entity itself has been very, very violent at times, and of course the witnesses and the documentation have been excellent. The violent things I've seen happen are the the furniture moving, the furniture being thrown upside down. In fact, one night I was standing here, there were about 11 or 12 people in the room, and I was standing talking to one of the members of the family, and in front of the settee, and the settee went straight up in the air and turned upside down, right in front of me, no more than a foot away from me.
What particular tape stands out in your mind?
Well, I think one particular tape that stands out in my mind is the incident where I was communicating with it quite a long while, very seriously, and then something happened which was very funny indeed.
Knock. 1 for no and 2 for yes. Are you a male spirit? 1 for no and 2 for yes.
2.
That's 2. You are a male spirit. Did you used to live in this house? You did. Was it more than 50 years ago? Yes. Did you die in this house? Did you pass on? You did pass on in this house. Now, why are you here? Are you unhappy? You're not unhappy. But why are you here? Is it because you want to give us a special message? No. You don't want to give us a special message. Are you having a game with me? Oh, right.
Oh, crumbs.
As I asked the question, are you having a game with me? It's through the cardboard box and the pillow right in my face. Well, thank you very much. That was a very good answer.
And we was all just standing in the kitchen, all of us together. And then all of a sudden a pool of water come from nowhere in the middle of the floor in the kitchen. And then we heard the toilet chain pull. And there was no one at all out in the toilet. We was all in the kitchen. And the door opened in the toilet. Then the chain went. And as we walked out there, the toilet brush came from the thing what it was in, the container. And the brush just come up and settled on top of the toilet. Just like that, as if someone had just got in there, pulled the chain and then took the brush up and to wash the toilet. And the doors, well, and then the bathroom door opens and the kitchen table has just tipped up. And there's Janet, one of the girls, she's been just sitting on the chair and she's been thrown completely across the room.
There's a child's chair, I bet it weighs about £10, padded one with metal legs. And the child is sleeping in a single bed one side of the room, and I was sitting on a single bed the other side of the room, with his chair in the middle. The child went to sleep, and all of a sudden she got a little bit restless. Well, just after that, his chair was lifted off the ground, and it was thrown about 9 foot through the air, a good 9 foot, for no reason whatsoever. No one was on the end of it. Didn't touch no one. Just went a straight line down the room.
And what did you do?
I ran out the room again. You know, I mean, when you see these things, there's nothing on the end of them. You begin to shake.
The third family to be caught up in the story was John and Sylvia Burkham, who live a few doors away. John is Mrs. Hodgson's brother, and he and Sylvia have spent hours at the Hodgson's house, trying to help them through all the unexplained goings-on. But they've had plenty of shocks of their own. Now, what happened in this bedroom?
Well, I heard a noise downstairs. I come up, and there was the eldest girl on the floor. But the other one's missing. So I look under this bed, I look under this one, and as I stand up, I see it. There she is, across this radio, one leg in the air, and her head hanging down. Just to prove that I wasn't mad, I yelled for my wife to come up to see what I have just seen. But she was asleep.
As a roof repairer, Vic Nottingham is used to tall stories. But he never thought he'd play a leading role in one like this.
I've got one chap at work, for instance, and he says to me, "How's your ghost getting on?" Now, I mean, it's no good talking to a chap like that. because he's got no reaction on it whatsoever. He thinks that I'm going round the bloody bend, like, you know what I mean? But
Do you think you are?
well, I was straight. I mean, I'm 44 and I've never witnessed anything like it before in my life. But the only thing that worries me, see, being a roofer by trade, is beginning to get on top of you. Your nerves begin to shatter a little bit.
In every story of things that go bump in the night, there are two possibilities. One, that it's a hoax. Two, that there's something going on beyond the grasp of the human mind. If this is a hoax, it means that some of the 17 people who've seen things have been playing an elaborate and twisted joke on the others. If it isn't a hoax, it means that either those 17 people have all been having hallucinations, including the police, or this is the best documented ghost story of all time.
Can you tell me why you are upsetting this family? Is it because you enjoy doing it? You do enjoy doing it. Well, I suggest that now you've now, what does that mean? Why have you done 3 knocks? Now, I ask you the question again. 2 knocks for yes, and 1 knock for no. Now, yes, that's right, you understand. Now, do you enjoy upsetting this family? You do? Well, now, will you please go away? Because I think you've had enough of your jokes. You won't go away. But I would like you to go away, and go away because I think you've been upsetting this family long enough, and it's time you went away. You understand me? Please go away. Yes, you must go away. It's absolutely essential that you go away. No, you mustn't be obstinate. You must go away. Well, you must. I'm sorry, but you must stop annoying this family. You've had enough. You've had a good time. Now, please go away. All right? Please go away. I can't say any more to you now. Goodbye. Goodbye.
These teenage sisters believe they're haunted by a poltergeist.
I was going to ask the same question as I asked earlier. How many voices are there?
600.
600 the voices.
I know the joke.
How many really are there, Margaret?
I think so far we've had 10
3.
sensible voices, but the rest of the names are absolute rubbish.
11-year-old Janet Hodgson appears to be the focus of many of the strange happenings in Green Street. But they also affect her 14-year-old sister, Margaret, and their younger brother, Billy. One of the first manifestations was when Lego bricks began to fly at high speed around the living room.
How does it feel to be haunted by a poltergeist?
It's not haunted. Shut up.
Why isn't it haunted?
I don't know.
Does it frighten you, the things that happen here?
Oh, well, it did first, but now I've got more used to it. And you learn to accept the things that happen.
It's slung covered at Mum. Might eat it, Mum. Slung a bookshelf at Margaret.
Have you tried telling it to go away?
Yes,
Yeah,
many
no
times.
answer, nothing.
And what does it reply?
No, it won't. It'll stay another 6-7 years.
The local police could find no explanation for the knocking either. They were even more baffled when 2 of their beat constables reported seeing an armchair levitate across the Hodgsons' living room.
It came off the floor, or nearly a ½ inch, I should say, and I saw it slide off to the right, about 3.5 to 4 feet before it came to rest. I checked to see whether or not it could possibly have slid along the floor. I placed a marble on the floor to see whether or not the marble would go in the same direction as the chair did, and it didn't roll at all. I checked for wires under the cushion of the chair, and I could find no explanation at all.
Maurice Gross is an electronics engineer and an investigator for the Society for Psychical Research.
Over here was Janet, and over here, in this bed here, was Margaret.
It was in the same bedroom a month later, with all the family present, that Maurice Gross first challenged the poltergeist to talk.
And this was actually the result. You'll hear here the whistling first of all, and then the barking. And here is this noise. The barking here is quite extraordinary, actually.
We got a dog in here.
I then said to it, I then, as I said on the tape here, I then said to it, if you can whistle and bark and groan, then you can talk. And I asked it to actually say my name.
Oh, Johnny.
Well, just a minute. Right, we'll try again. I want you to call out my name, my complete name, Maurice Gross. See if you can do that. Very good. Let me hear you say my name again. Come on, let me hear you say my name. Come on, my name's Maurice. Let me hear you say it. Maurice. Now that was the first time we heard the voice, and since then we've been hearing it again and again, and it's been getting louder and louder.
What about the voices? When did the voices start?
December the 12th.
December the 12th?
Yes.
And how did they start?
Well, one night Mr. Gross was talking about it about 8:30. He said, all we need now is the voices to talk. And that night I went to bed and can't remember exactly what happened. And
What's that knocking?
yeah,
Can hear it now. I was doing that yesterday morning, and Peggy was on her own. So she come in to us, because it wasn't her, she come in. We sat together and we heard it. And I counted down my knocks and there was 14 altogether. And it's doing it again now.
That was 3 knocks just now.
Yes, it goes in 3s and 2s.
how we first got contacted, this was when Mr. Gross said, if there's anyone there, knock twice for yes, and if not, 1 for no.
I wonder if we did that now, whether it would answer. Is anybody there? Is anybody there? Nothing. No.
It doesn't always do it to order.
No, it doesn't. It goes in spasms. Like we're talking now. It may not now, after you've said that, but it won't do it when you want it to, straight away, you know.
What about the voices? They sometimes say things and make answers. Is that the voice now?
Yeah.
Is anybody there? How many voices are there?
Dirty Dick, Andrew Garner, and Stuart Thurton.
Dirty Dick, Andrew Gardner, and Stuart.
Thurton.
Oh, has he ever spelt that for you?
No.
Mr. Ghost asked him, but something distracted Mr. Ghost last night when he asked. That was some time ago.
And
Sorry,
what do you
go on.
think these are? Are they people or are they just voices?
Could be spirits, oh, I don't know.
I believe it's a
Ghosts
form
or
of a
something.
spirit speaking for us somehow. No. We don't get this at school, these voices are. Because I believe when we're all separate, it's not so strong.
Just when you come near each other?
Yeah, like here, or our aunts, we're all up there together, or in Peggy's next door.
And Janet's, your voice is stronger, isn't it? It seems to be the strongest.
Yeah.
When you hear the voice and it comes out, where does it come from? Here, your throat.
No.
Where do you feel it comes
Back
from?
of the neck.
Back of the neck.
And so it must be as if it's somebody else speaking then, when you hear
Yeah,
it.
behind us.
And do you get the feeling when you hear the voice that there is a person there?
Yes.
Yeah.
And do they tell you much about themselves?
Not really, no.
They just tend to growl and...
Play around and sort of joke and be silly. No.
I wonder, do you think there's anyone there just now?
Yeah. I do.
Who's that?
What?
Who's that, Janet?
Pardon? Stuart Certain.
Stuart Certain, and he's one of the voices.
Yeah.
Why do you think he comes and speaks through you?
To annoy us.
Does he ever say anything nice?
Well, don't know really.
Shall we
Says-
try and speak to him? No. We'll see if he'll speak to us.
Yeah.
Is anybody there?
No.
Who's there?
Doctor
Doctor Who?
Goose Chasers here.
Mr. Gross, a lot of people, hearing these voices produced by the children, will simply say that they are very good ventriloquists and that this is all a hoax. How would you react to that?
Certainly not. They're certainly not very good ventriloquists. We have had tests on them to see whether they can ventriloquize. They can't. To keep up this particular type of voice for any length of time without damage to the vocal cords is absolutely impossible. I mean, there must be some hoarseness attached to it. But don't forget, these children don't do this for a couple of minutes or so. They do it for lengths of periods up to 3 hours, and without any hoarseness or sore throats whatsoever. Well, perhaps you've got something to say to them.
Yeah.
I'd like to know how you make this noise without bashing Janet's vocal cords to pieces. If I do it for half a minute, I get a sore throat. Joe?
Guy Lyon Playfair is an author of books on the paranormal, with experience of poltergeist cases in Europe and Brazil.
How do you do it, mate?
God, they can hours.
Don't you ever get a sore throat, Janet?
No.
Sure.
Yeah.
You never get pain in the back of the neck or something?
No. Oh, what do you mean? I'm sorry, I'm not with you. What? I feel,
Oh, you with me now? With you?
Sensation in the back of the neck, yeah.
Well, tell us about that.
I don't know how to
No, tell me
explain
about that. You get it now? It's buzzing in the
When
back
you
of the neck.
talk, yeah.
Do you feel it vibrating as if it was sort of
No, like someone
someone
got
what?
their hand on the back of my neck like that.
Poltergeists seem to thrive on an atmosphere of tension that is partly sexual. The fact that most of the focuses are adolescents seems to contribute to the mischievous nature of the effects. leading some to suggest that the kids are faking or enjoying a laugh at the expense of the investigators. But to create all the bizarre effects that went on in this house either involves a gigantic conspiracy with the neighbours or a disruption in our laws of mind and matter.
I'm invisible.
I'm invisible.
You're invisible? Why are you invisible? I'm a G-H-O-S-T.
Because I'm a G-H-O-S-T. Yes, he had quite a sense of humour. He also used to swear a lot as well. I'm Maurice Gross, and I'm one of Britain's leading psychic investigators. I'm 76 now, and still on the trail of ghosts and poltergeists. In 1977, I led a team which investigated what is now regarded as the world's most famous poltergeist case, the Enfield Poltergeist. It became world headlines at the time, mainly because of the strange, gruff voice that came from a girl called Janet. Hollywood soon got in on the act, and the makers of several box office hits acknowledge a debt to my case in Enfield. I've never been able to forget that voice. He called himself many names, but mostly Bill or Fred. I still listen to the 180 hours of tapes I recorded during the investigation.
Bow, 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 the pump check is down the street. Merrily, 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 lovely got the train. Now now.
This voice is coming from an 11-year-old girl. Well, perhaps, Guy, perhaps you've got something to say to them.
Yeah.
I'd like to know how you make this noise without bashing Janet's vocal cords to pieces. If I do it for half a minute, I get a sore throat.
Goose chases here.
And we found that on analysis, the voice was not made by the larynx, the voice box, but by the false vocal fold, which is above the larynx. And you only use that when you lose your voice and you talk like that. Well, if you talk like that for more than a couple of minutes, you start getting a sore throat. Talk like that for 5 minutes or so and you're going to start doing damage to your throat. And yet this voice used to speak up to 3 hours at a time. Not continuously, of course, but up to 3 hours at a time without the girl showing any distress at all. Absolutely remarkable. The voice was just part of it. The girl levitated, going from horizontal to vertical in a sixth of a second. Furniture was thrown around the rooms. The house was swarming with journalists. But after 4 days, they were baffled and frightened and called my team for help. A policewoman gave a sworn affidavit of the extraordinary activity she witnessed. Even the ghost chipped in. The death certificate confirmed the truth of what the ghost was saying. Many objects materialised out of thin air, spoons were bent, fires broke out spontaneously in the impoverished family's home. The family had to endure practically every known phenomena in a poltergeist case. They were traumatised. They didn't benefit financially and were ostracised by many of their local community. The Enfield Poltergeist menaced that family for 18 months. It nearly destroyed their lives. I'm going back to see them for the first time in 20 years. Janet, the girl at the centre of it all, prefers to remain anonymous, but I spoke to her mother and sister. Well, here I am at this famous house in Enfield, and here you see Margaret and her mother, who were very, very involved in this case. You remember the day I first came?
Yes, I remember,
Yeah,
Mr. Gross, and you was on the
Gross.
case ever since then,
Yeah.
Yes.
onwards, and you saw everything and took note and explained to us
You remember when the reporters and journalists were here, how did they carry on?
I could see the fear in some of their faces also, and they probably could sense that we was dead scared and wanted to run out any minute. I know I did. My sister did, I know that.
I remember one of them came in and he explained to me that I'd got a poltergeist in the house. And I said, what on earth's that? And I nearly fainted when he told me. I didn't even know what it was. In fact, I don't think any of us did.
And we couldn't even say the word poltergeist until Mr. Groves from Psychical Research explained how to say poltergeist.
That's me.
and also what it actually meant in, was it German? Was it?
Yeah, poltergeist, noisy ghost.
In the meaning of it also,
yeah.
which he explained to us.
What do you say to people who say to you, with you children playing around, what do you say about that?
I say that's a matter of opinion. If you haven't experienced it, you're going to say that. But it did really happen.
It upsets me deep down to think that they can't give us an open mind, the ones that just put it down completely. But all I can say to them is I wish they can experience the same thing as what we went through. They certainly wouldn't say it was false or fake or it was child playing or anything of that kind.
The welfare of people at the centre of poltergeist activity is very important. I believe that most poltergeist activity is actually caused by very high levels of stress. Occasionally you get paranormal entities interacting with this. And this is what I think happened at Enfield. I haven't spent all my years searching for the paranormal. Like everybody else, I had a normal life to lead. When I left school, I was a commercial artist. I did 2 years apprenticeship. You can see on the pictures on the wall, well, actually they are my pictures that I have done. I turned into quite a good commercial artist, in fact. But then the war was looming, and I joined the Royal Artillery, super heavy guns. We had to make a hasty retreat back to Dunkirk, when of course thousands of other troops. And we were bombed and blitzed to hell there. It really was rough going. I suppose I was one of the reasonably lucky ones. I got off on a destroyer. I met Betty at a tea dance in Marble Arch. Always very taken with her, right from the word go. And it was on a Sunday, and I met her on a Sunday, proposed to her on the Thursday, and in 10 weeks we were married. Because everybody said at the time, oh, these war marriages, it would never last, it would never last. Well, I don't know, perhaps it won't. I mean, it's only 51 years now, so I suppose I think I can say it'll last. We've had a good life. A good life, that is, until the death of our youngest daughter, Janet, in a road accident. Betty and I believe that Janet tried to contact us after her physical death. You might believe that was just our way of dealing with bereavement, but it was a turning point in my life. I decided to carry out serious research into the paranormal and join the Society for Psychical Research. This is now my psychic HQ. The Society is the world's leading centre for the scientific study of the paranormal. I'm the chairman of the Spontaneous Phenomena Committee. People write to us from all around the country with their strange cases, which we investigate on a non-fee-paying basis. Can you recap on who he said was psychologically disturbed?
He said
What name of who was it? Because there's so many names.
That's the covering letter, isn't it?
Yes, on the covering letter. There's so many people mentioned
Yes, I was
there.
wondering that.
I spoke in the early 60s and a retired university lecturer.
Well, I think we can dispense with that case then, yeah.